So this is the site of the old Murfreesboro Iron and Metal Company. Back in the 1940s, this was plagued with creature sightings. Workers were terrified of this monster roaming through along the old railroad tracks. Finally, in 1949, the owner, fearing that nobody wanted to work here, offered a $100 reward for the creature. The only problem was nobody could agree as to what the creature looked like. Some say it looked like a wolf with a bushier tail. Some say it was smaller than a fox. Some said it had a dog's face, but it wasn't a dog. Others reported it was a bear that would walk upright on its hind legs. Unfortunately, we will never know because the reward was never claimed and the creature was never captured. As we both know, truckers, they're great observers of the different phenomena because they're on the road all the time. And that's what I think makes this such a cool sighting of truck drivers.
I would agree entirely. They're out in the sticks, they're out at night when most people aren't, it's just more eyes on the road.
So in 1975, several truckers right up on the road independently radioed in on their CBs of seeing some giant creature that seemed to resemble a gorilla. And that's interesting too, because you would think if you're driving and you catch something big, the size they say it was or is, the first thing you'd think of is a bear.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's the most likely explanation, but that's not what they're reporting. They're reporting more of a gorilla look.
I thought that was strange too. And along that same stretch of road, it keeps happening too. It wasn't just a one-off. So as recently as 2011, someone saw what they thought was a Bigfoot along that same stretch of road. And then the next year, they saw it again. Only this time it was two that they described as possibly a male and a female standing by the tree line. And as they passed, they kind of stepped back into the trees.
Interesting. Was the 2011 by the railroad track?
Yes.
And again, that fits in with the whole Big Muddy Monster along the rails of the old Iron Company and Metal Company had the railroad there, and other creatures from the Van Meter Visitor to the Enfield Horror, all along these railroad lines. So
exactly.
Big Muddy, we think, travels the Big Muddy River, obviously, but a lot of these creatures seem to follow the old railroad trails.
I mean, it makes sense. It's an easy way to get around, rather than just going through the brush and trees.
Yeah, and a lot of it's on the outskirts of town where people aren't usually walking. It's too dangerous, so it's free of pedestrians, so likely not being seen.
Exactly.
Very interesting case. Even though we're only a couple miles outside of Murfreesboro, you can see that it just gets rural very quick. Dense forest, swampy marshland, only a few miles from town.
It's true. I mean, we're just a couple miles from Turkey Bayou and the Devil's Backbone. All kinds of really interesting natural features in this area. And it gets remote really quickly.
And you don't have to go far to see that this is enough area for something big to remain hidden. That there's just so much of it, and so much of it's not easily accessible to people on foot. I mean, unless you're going to be mud bogging, you're not going to get to some of these locations.
Exactly.
A lot of people consider this one of those window areas, these places, these portals, these beacons of paranormal activity where you have so much different phenomena being reported all in the same general vicinity.
Well, as you know, this whole area has been occupied for thousands of years, and they typically build things where they feel that the land is kind of special or sacred or just different. Just down the road is a Indian burial mound that they call the Haunted Mound. And a few years ago, the farmer that owns that land wanted to knock it flat to make more for crops. And every time he would bring his tractor up to do this, it would stall or it wouldn't start, and he had all kinds of problems. And finally, he just had to give up. So it's still there, fortunately.